Hello to you all. You're watching RHTVLive, and we are streaming live from the beautiful city of Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And of course, we're going to talk politics and geopolitics, as we usually do on this channel. And first of all, we're going to start off with what's happening in the Netherlands, or what has transpired in the Netherlands, right? Uh, we're going to show you guys King's Day. Yep, over here in the Netherlands, we have a king. And whenever it's his birthday, there's major cops and snipers and whatever else, you know. And during King's Day, he was in Doetinchem. So there we go. Here we have Doetinchem, where our king was during King's Day. So let's show some video of King's Day in Doetinchem. So there we have the royal family.
Koning Willem-Alexander, koningin Maxima en de prinsessen Amalia en Alexia worden feestelijk onthaald in de Achterhoek. De jongste prinses, Ariaan, is er niet bij. Zij is druk met haar eindexamens. De koninklijke familie loopt een route door de stad. Er is van alles bedacht om de 58ste verjaardag van de koning te vieren. Er zijn optredens van dansers, muzikanten en er wordt ook veel gesport. Volgens de koning is het mooi om alles te zien.
Dat je ook ziet hier dat de Achterhoek samen met Doetinchem hier met samenwerken en in verbinding dit fantastische feest neergezet hebben.
He's like, oh, this celebration is fantastic, you know, and people working together and blah, blah, blah. We don't need a king. We used to be a republic, right? We used to be a republic. And now we have a monarchy. The lady here is his daughter, Princess Amalia. So, not important, right? Not important. What is more important is what's recently happened. Virginia Giuffre, or something like that. She was in a Epstein accuser and was abused by Epstein and all these very powerful people. Now, she had a bus accident and she had like days to live, according to her, right? And now she has committed suicide, according to the news. So let's take a look at this, which is, you know, pretty odd. You know, she stated basically on Twitter, she's not going to kill herself, right? She's not going to kill herself. We're going to show some video.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth with breaking news. Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent abuse survivors, has died by suicide. That's right, guys. This is Prince Andrew's accuser, who said she was just hit by a bus a couple of weeks ago and posted photos of herself on Instagram saying that she only had 4 days to live. And perhaps even crazier than this is that just in a 2019 tweet, she literally said this: "I'm making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and GP. If something happens to me, in the sake of my family, do not let this go away. And help me to protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted." Well, folks, now Virginia Giuffre, Jeffrey Epstein, and Prince Andrew accuser is dead at the age of 41. And here she is pictured with Prince Andrew.
Why is it always these sickos and people in power that get away with it? Right? On the left side, we see Prince Andrew. On the right side, we see Ghislaine Maxwell, which was a handler. And in the middle, we see Virginia Giuffre. Why do these sickos get away with it? Right? Why? Tell me that. Because, we want to know the truth. We want to know what happened on Epstein's Island. We want to know the truth. Come on, Pam Bondi. Come on, Donald Trump. You'd say you'd declassify everything about Epstein. Well, haven't seen anything. Right? Have not seen anything. So, who knows if Trump will ever do that, right? If Pam Bondi will touch the Epstein files, right? This is for protection of other, other victims. We're going to show you another victim pretty soon, but first let's play this.
At the young age of 17, she claims that she was a minor when she was forced to have sex with him. She claims that he knew she was a minor at the time. And in this now infamous photo, we can see her with Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, and also Jeffrey Epstein, who is allegedly the one taking the photo, and you can see the reflection of the flash in the background. Now, when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, guys, if you've been following my work, if you just search Jeffrey Epstein suicide on my website, you're going to find a whole bunch of videos like this one, breaking: Jeffrey Epstein is dead from suicide while on suicide watch.
It's amazing, right? People still think that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. Of course not. We know better. He was killed. He was killed in his prison, right? Now, I'm not for Epstein, but he was a very, very important person that had connections with Mossad and FBI and more of the elites, right? So it's insane. It is insane that the media says, oh, Epstein killed himself. No, he didn't. Nor did Virginia kill herself, right? We know better. Stupid media lying to us, huh?
This one, the Jeffrey Epstein suicide conspiracy explained in under 2 minutes. Or the Jeffrey Epstein suicide tape didn't delete itself. Let's take a closer look.
Yeah, what about those Epstein tapes, huh? Yeah, if you're on suicide watch, you have a camera watching over you, right? Now, these cameras did not work during his suicide. Did not work. Yeah, right. The guards were gone, right? Camera did not work. Yeah, and then you find Epstein dead in his cell. Come on. Anyone with brains knows that something is wrong here. Something is very, very wrong. Right?
Or this one, Jeffrey Epstein suicided. You won't believe what they are now claiming happened. And, so many people realized that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, that this meme basically took off and went completely viral, because I think most people were able to make the connection back then that, the whole truth about the Clinton body count and the Epstein connection. I pointed out what you need to know in this 2019 video, because Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein are not only heavily connected to royalty, but they're connected to the Clintons as well. And not just the Clintons, guys. This thing runs extremely deep. Here's the current.
Yeah, this thing runs very deep, because there's an Australian Prime Minister even mentioned in the Jeffrey Epstein files, which they declassified already, right? An Australian Prime Minister. I mean, come on. We know something's fishy's going on here.
Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, here pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell in 2013, looking very...
Oh, Mark Carney. Yeah. How many times did you fly in Lolita Express, huh? How many times did you fly, Mr. Carney? Oh, yeah, Justin Trudeau stepped down, right? And without even voting, Canada has a new prime minister, and they're all sickos. They're all sickos. All these people in power are sickos, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Very, very chummy. So this thing runs very, very deep, guys. If you missed my bombshell report titled Canada's New Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Pedophile Network That Controls Him Exposed, make sure you check it out. I will put a link to all this in the description below, but we're going to talk about all of this right here, guys, and much more in this video. But really quickly, just before we do...
Thank you, Dan Dix, for doing that, right? Giving us background information on Epstein. There are more channels such as We Are Change and more channels talking about Epstein, such as Lionel Nation, yeah, and of course We Are Change, and more channels talk about it, right? So here we have Lionel Nation. This guy used to be a lawyer, and now he has a YouTube channel talking about specific stuff like Epstein and stuff like that. So let's take a listen to Lionel Nation.
Think about this. Think about what I'm saying to you. Virginia Giuffre, the woman who stood almost alone against the monstrous machine that was Jeffrey Epstein's human trafficking empire, is dead. Think about this. We are told it was suicide. We are told there's nothing suspicious, nothing at all weird about this. We're told, don't ask any questions. Don't ask any questions. Well, you know what? We're going to be asking anyway. It's that simple. Because as you know, my friend, history, common sense, and our own instincts tell us that when someone at the center of one of, if not the world's biggest scandals dies unexpectedly, mysteriously, with little or no forensic or police investigation, the very last thing we should do is just accept the official story. I think we know that by now. So let's rewind for a moment, shall we? Virginia Giuffre wasn't just another Epstein accuser. She was the symbol of resistance. She was the face of the survivors. She was the one who named names, big names. And she took on billionaires, royalty, politicians, tech tycoons, countries, intel agencies. She was the woman who said enough. She exposed the ugly underbelly of the elite, a world that to this day would prefer you just look the other way. In 2022, she settled.
We will not look the other way. We will point at it, right, and say, this is happening. We've been doing so ever since we were live for the very first time, right? You know, we point at it and say, this is happening. This is happening. You know, kids are being raped. Kids are being sold out. Is this the planet you want to live on? Huh? Is this the planet you want to have your kids on? You know, you have to look out for every corner because maybe there's a pedophile or a kid snatcher or whatever, man. You know? It's a really sick world. I'm sick of the sick world, man.
Her lawsuit with Prince Andrew for millions of dollars. Remember that? Remember Prince Andrew? I don't sweat. He has anhydrosis. I don't think so. This was a case that almost blew the lid off the establishment. A case that the British press, the American media, and even Hollywood tried to smother under piles of distractions and denials.
They're doing that in the Netherlands, right? They're doing that in the Netherlands. They're trying to normalize pedophilia by saying it's pedosexual, right? You're not a pedophile, according to some people, right? When you touch kids and stuff, you know, it's weird, man. You're just a pedophile, okay? You're a pedophile. If you put your hands on kids, on the private parts and stuff like that, you're a pedophile, man. You know? This world is sick. It's a sick world. Screwed up, man. It's really screwed up. We will never forget Virginia Giuffre. No, we will not forget her. We also have someone else willing to speak out. So here we have someone else who speaks out. After Virginia Giuffre reported suicide, other Epstein survivors are stepping forward, making it clear to the world that they are not suicidal. So there you go. And let's take a listen to this here. Before Virginia Giuffre was found dead, there was another Jeffrey Epstein victim who was found dead, and she'll talk about it. Yeah, so here we go.
My name is Julia Bryant, and I live in Cape Town, South Africa. I was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein 20 years ago. I am not suicidal, and I never ever will be. I also do not do any drugs. I met Epstein when he was in Africa with Bill Clinton. We all know about the Clinton body count. Another concerning fact is that one of the main women, a very brave angel, Carolyn, who testified against Ghislaine Maxwell, was found dead 6 months ago. It wasn't in the media until a few days ago. The only reason it was put in the media was because of a very, very brave Epstein victim. She doesn't want to be named. But there are other Epstein victims who've also died suspiciously. Carolyn was a beautiful, amazing, brave woman who planned a life on a chicken farm with her family. Instead, she was found dead in a hotel room. I want to speak out for safety and for other victims because it's very frightening when the media won't cover any of the victims' stories. A lot of my story hasn't been told in the media, and it's the same with a lot of other victims. And we actually all feel quite frightened with everything that's been going on. And as we know, this is not the first suspicious death related to the evil Maxwell empire. They also used to run the media. So maybe that's why victim stories are not being told to the media, and the victims of Epstein feel very frightened. Please all pray for Carolyn's family. And thank you for listening.
You see, I am not frightened. Right? I am not scared. You know? So, I just speak out. I just speak out. Just like this victim is speaking out, right? You know, I'm not scared. If I die, I die. It was not suicide. It was not suicide, okay? And if I die, you know, maybe people need to research my death. Huh? Because we're talking about dangerous stuff here. This is very, very dangerous. People are dying, man. You know? So, it's a sick world. It's a very, very sick world. There is so much more to say, right? You know, this is dangerous stuff we're showing here. Yeah? Dangerous. People are dying. It's just you expose the truth, right? And people are dying. I don't care. I don't care much about, uh, living the lie. I want to know the truth. So here we have Michakat, the last reporter standing. Why does he?
Michakat here with a short message for Ryan.
Why does he name himself that way? Well, he's the only one pointing out that pedophiles in the country, in the Netherlands, and he needed to flee. Now, of course, there's Chris Klomp, which is a so-called journalist, and he's basically harassing Michakat. They all want him gone from Twitter and stuff like that. So it's really, really sad. Really, really sad. And Chris Klomp, he is such a weirdo, man. He's such a weirdo. He says if you, have sex with kids, you're not a pedophile. As I've said before, they make a distinction, pedophile and pedosexual. It's all the same, man. It's all the same. So here we have Michakat.
Michakat here with a short message for Ryan Mehta. Thank you, Ryan, for the 2 interviews that you did with me and that drove the Dutch pedophile protectors completely crazy. Klomp and Dikkeboom, they went out of their mind because they thought they had me where they wanted me to have, and the more so because they intimidated all the Dutch media and the Dutch influencers on X that no one dared to mention my name, because if they did so, they would be completely dragged through the mud by these.
I dare to stand up against Chris Klomp and Norbert Dikkeboom, Dikke Drol. I dare. If they stand right in front of my nose, they'll run away. Yeah? They'll be scared of me. Yeah. Just for telling the truth.
These 2 pedophile protectors, but they didn't, of course, come with the possibility that I would get support from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, and now they are completely desperate. So now what they're going to do is that they want to destroy my X account. I don't know what they're going to do, because what's at stake here is so extremely high. As I told you, the Dutch are completely governed and ruled by pedophiles. And they need this protection team, they need this Klomp and Dikkeboom, of course, to fight off all the exposure and all the journalists and reporters that want to expose them, which they completely succeeded in when we talk about the Netherlands.
Well, not really, because we're talking about it, right? We're talking about it,
I was the only, that's why I call myself the last reporter standing. I was the only Dutch reporter that still was exposing these child rapists and child murderers, and that's exactly why I now live in Brazil. So what I now want to ask is for any Dutch influencer now, especially after the horrible murder on Virginia Giuffre, which once more brings the first pedophile war, as I call it, in the middle of the spotlight. Now that all these horrible things happened, and now that the world pedophile war are escalating, I hope that there will be some Dutch influencers that dare to choose my side against Klomp and Dikkeboom, because that's what I need, support from within the Netherlands.
Well, I dare to talk to Chris Klomp and say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you know, you are a bad reporter, you're wrong. Chris Klomp doesn't report about anything, you know. He's a so-called rechtbankjournalist. He goes to court and he just writes down what the judge says, even though when someone is 100% innocent and the judge says you're guilty, Chris Klomp will say he's guilty because the judge said so. That's not a reporter.
Which has been completely absent up to this point, even when I was in prison for 30 months, the longest period a Dutch reporter has ever spent in prison. There was not one influencer, not one medium that dared to support me or dared to mention my case. And especially now that I won 2 times of the Dutch state in the Supreme Court, a case that is starting in May. There will be a big energy from that case, which is also an important development. All these things happening can maybe cause...
Well, basically, Micha had said to a judge, you are corrupt. You know, and he basically exposed the judge. The judge needed to step down. And, you know, now Micha is claiming that the judge needs to pay him because his whole life was turned upside down. He used to live in the Netherlands, you know, and he used to do his job and stuff. And he said there's child porn on the internet. And then you have all these trolls saying, there's no child porn on the internet. Nothing is happening. You know, you are a weird conspiracy theorist. And if there is, you need to prove it. Prove that there's child porn on internet. And for years, you know, and Micha posted some photos of child porn, right, as evidence, and Chris Klomp says Micha Kat has child porn on his computer. So they ask for evidence, they get evidence, and then they use that evidence against you. You have child porn on your computer. Now you wanted evidence. You asked for evidence. You screw up.
Some Dutch influencers to choose my side against the horrible Peter protectors Klomp and Dikkeboom, who work also, of course, for the Dutch government and for the anti-disinformation unit of the NATO, and which are paid by the NATO, by the warmongers, by the mass murderers, and by the Dutch government. So this is my message at this point on our King's Day. Thank you very much. And I hope that everything will turn out well for everybody. Let's put it that way. Deep behind, of course, pedophile protecting lines.
So there you have Micha Kat, right, standing up for what's right, and Chris Klomp covering up what's wrong, huh? You know, it's really, really sad, really, really sad, you know. So let's change gears here. There's been an explosion in Iran. Yep. So let's take a look at some videos of the big and pictures of the big explosion in Bandar Abbas. And you may question yourself, where is that? It's in Iran, as I've said before. But we're going to also show it on the map. So here we have Bandar Abbas and the big explosion at the port. And let's take a look at some pictures here. There we go. and there's been a huge explosion in Bandar Abbas. The cause is unknown. Well, who knows? Maybe this will be, World War III, a war with Iran. Who knows? We're gonna take a look at these videos here.
انفجار سنگین همین الان خدمات همه ماشینا رو ترکوند همه ماشینا ترکید اینم ماشین ماست کل خدمات خراب شد انفجار سنگین.
Oh, it's the same video. I thought there were two videos, but I was wrong. Now we see helicopters and such giving supplies to wounded people at the explosion. That's for water. There's also another video where they give supplies. Anyway, we had that, right? So who knows? It's not really known what happened over there in Iran. They're still investigating, and who knows what happened. Maybe some CIA project that the CIA is doing. Right? They want to attack Iran. It's been on the board for quite a while. We have that General Wesley Clark saying Iran, they're going to attack Iran. Now you may say I'm a weirdo, conspiracy theorist, and stuff like that. Well, we'll look it up and let's see what Wesley Clark has to say about, attacking 7 countries in 5 years. And let's take a listen to one of those countries that he's going to mention.
Ten days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Oh, Iran. Now, what did we just see? Big explosion in Iran. So, yeah, we have to take that into account, right? And, who knows? Who knows? Iran is still investigating the big explosion. So, maybe we have some news about the explosion. We're going to take a look at Iran Observer, and let's see if they mention the explosion. Yeah, there's also tensions going on with Pakistan and Afghanistan and Iran, right? So let's see, causes unknown. Let's scroll up a bit. There we go. Yeah, we're going to share this. Repost. There you go. So what's happening here? You tell me. Huh? Did someone set this on fire or what? Or how did this happen? It appears that ammonium nitrate caused the huge explosion. 20 fatalities have been confirmed. These working near the blast didn't survive it. So aluminum nitrate caused explosion, but yeah, who set it on fire though? You know, it needs heat, right? So the number of people injured in the explosion at the Port Bandar Abbas has reached 750. Firefighters are still trying to bring the fire under control. This is 4 hours ago, and yeah, it's very, very sad. 750 people have died. India and Pakistani forces are currently clashing somewhere in Kashmir. Yeah, that's also happening, right? So, yeah, this is the world we live in. We also have Pakistan and Afghanistan in a fight, right? And there's basically a Pakistani Taliban in Pakistan, and they're fighting off the army, and you know, there's so much going on, right? Here we have Jammu and Kashmir, and as we've shown before, there's conflict in that area. India and Pakistan are fighting in Jammu and Kashmir. So we have that going on, right? And as previously said, you also have Afghanistan, which is also a thorn in the side for Pakistan, you know, because of the Taliban. And how did the Taliban come into power again? Oh yeah, America left Afghanistan. Yeah, Joe Biden, during his first few weeks in office, he said, "Yep, we're going to leave Afghanistan. Bye," and you know, they left, even though it costed a lot of lives. People don't care. Yep, people do not care. Yeah, so we're going to take a look at some video of the plane leaving Kabul. Yeah. And yeah, the American withdrawal, right? Here we go. Afghans climb on plane during takeoff in attempt to flee Taliban. So, yeah, Afghani people were clinging on a plane trying to leave Afghanistan, right? Because the Taliban was in power. So, and let's take a look at these images. Yep, people were clinging on the plane, trying to leave. many of these people have never seen a plane before, right? They're like, oh, we can cling on, nothing's going to happen. Yeah, until you're in the air and you fall down. Right? So, yeah. And Afghanistan and Pakistan are in a fight. Afghanistan, Pakistan, war. There you go. So, yeah, Pakistan and Afghanistan are in a fight. And very, very sad thing to see. Why Pakistan is a global threat. Now, they're all threats, The Taliban is not better than what's happening over there in Pakistan, right? So, the Taliban condemns Pellegrim terror attack. Yeah. So, India cuts off Pakistan. So, yeah, that's going from bad to worse. And now you have three countries basically fighting. So it's bad. It's bad. We have Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India. And, Pakistan is fighting Afghanistan and they're fighting India in Jammu and Kashmir. We just show you the place. So here we have Jammu and Kashmir, which is a disputed area. Pakistan claims land, India claims land, China claims land, and there's also Afghanistan that claims this region here. So that's going on, right? We were talking about Jammu and Kashmir as a pressure point, and we see that, the pressure is on Jammu and Kashmir. So there are other pressure points, such as Taiwan. Yeah, we know that the Chinese army is doing drills, right, encircling Taiwan, basically. And, the people in Taiwan are scared that the Chinese will take over and name it Taipei, probably. All right. So that's happening. This is also a pressure point. We also have the war in Ukraine still raging, even though Donald Trump is trying to make a peace deal, right? Zelensky says, no, I want the Donbass and I want Crimea back. So, and Donald Trump says, well, Crimea is in Russian hands. We can talk about the Donbass, we could talk about Luhansk and these places. But yeah, you're not getting Crimea back. And Zelensky is angry. He's like, no, wow. So yeah, there you have that, right? We also have a video clip of Donald Trump basically talking about Ukraine, which is very, very interesting since the U.S. walked out of the peace deal, basically, and basically had put the deal on table, and Russia and Ukraine are left at the table, and Donald Trump says, you guys fight it out, you guys fight it out. And basically he's saying Ukraine is on the losing side, as we've stated before, right? Ukraine is losing this war. Every city or town in Ukraine when they're fighting, the Russians are winning. The Russians are winning. There are more people in Russia than in Ukraine. You know, so if you want to drag it out by, sacrificing your own people, you're going to lose this. You are going to lose this, right? This war needs to end. So let's take a listen to what Donald Trump has to say about the Ukraine war.
But that's a war that should have never been allowed to start. And Biden could have stopped it, and Zelensky could have stopped it, and Putin should have never started it. Everybody's to blame.
Have you spoken to President Zelensky, sir, about his...
Everybody's to blame. Well, Mr. Trump, first of all, you have to look at the U.S. influence within Ukraine. We have Victoria Nuland talking to Jeffrey Pyatt about who's going to get power in Kiev after the coup was done. Right? And this was before the coup. Right? So they pre-planned this. And they put in neo-Nazis as leaders. They put in radical people as leaders. These people they just love the Nazi symbolism and stuff like that. The swastikas everywhere and stuff like that, They just love it. And if you speak out against it, you're going to the front lines. So that's what's happening. And the Nazi regime in Kiev is basically still fighting. And Russia says, we are going to denazify Ukraine, which basically means, all the Nazis dead in Ukraine, right? We don't want this ideology anymore at our neighbor, right? We don't want this ideology in Ukraine. It's cost so many lives. So Donald Trump needs to understand you're dealing with Nazis. You are dealing with radical Nazis. And Zelensky is, a very, very dangerous man. He's a dictator. Yeah, getting priests out of churches and stuff like that, arresting many, many people who say, no, Zelensky, no. Well, come on over here, Zelensky, arrest me, because I also say no. Right? I don't want my country to sacrifice themselves in Ukraine for nothing because your weenie is too small or something like that, right? I mean, come on. Let's back it up here and let's do it again.
But that's a war that should have never been allowed to start. And Biden could have stopped it, and Zelensky could have stopped it, and Putin should have never started it. Everybody's to blame.
Have you spoken to President Zelensky, sir, about his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries?
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles. He's against. Listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size, and then hope that people give you some missiles. But that's a war that should have never been allowed to start.
Very wise words from this president, right? Because we remember what Kamala Harris had said about Ukraine. Oh, Ukraine is a small country next to Russia. She really said that. Everyone knows this. Everyone with a brain knows where Ukraine is, right? So let's take a listen to Kamala Harris talking about the complex situation in Ukraine, right? Very complex, because there are many groups and stuff like that, but we know that the Nazis are in power in Ukraine. Right? We know this. So let's take a listen to Kamala Harris explaining what Ukraine is, and
level of news, even social media, you're seeing everything that's going on right now in the Ukraine. Break it down in layman's terms for people who don't understand what's going on and how can this directly affect the people of the United States.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country.
No, really? Really? Russia is a bigger country? Are you kidding me, Kamala Harris? Are you kidding me? Russia is a bigger country. Come on.
Is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
If you're watching any level...
Oh, it's wrong for a big country to attack a small country. That's what Kamala Harris is basically saying, right? Now, let's take a look at the map. Right? Let's take a look at the map. Here we have Iraq, right? Now, compare this country to the United States. Yeah, let's compare. Now, Iraq is a lot smaller than the United States. But according to Kamala Harris, it's wrong for a big country to attack a small country. Yeah, wrong. You were wrong. Yep. So, work those brain cells. Work them brain cells. Who is wrong? Is Russia really wrong for attacking Ukraine? Even though Kiev in 2014 attacked the Donbass, 15,000 roughly people have died before Russian intervention. 15,000 people have died. And Russia's bad for attacking Ukraine. Yeah, right. Come on. We know better. We know better. So, we have that, right? It's really, really, really sad. So, before we close off, let's take a look at our favorite country, Haiti. Let's see what's happening in Haiti right now. Hopefully, the war is over. Hopefully, But I don't think so. I don't think so. Here we go. Pregnant migrants, babies arrested. Nope. Haiti edges closer to point of no return. Yeah, we knew that, right? Orphans flee gang violence in Haiti. Inside the crisis, let's take a look at this here.
The mountains of northern Haiti, a 7-hour drive from the urban hellscape of Haiti's gang-infested capital. Here, these orphans evacuated from the violence of Port-au-Prince are now safe in a place of peace, but with little else.
They were used to the city, So they were not so happy. And we didn't have water until we make the well.
Didi Ananda, a 61-year-old nun, made the heart-wrenching decision to move the 33 children under her care here before it was too late. She had to uproot a life's work. Decades earlier, she came to Haiti from the Canary Islands, Spain. Didi, sister in Sanskrit, founded a children's home in Port-au-Prince. At its heart, music. Every child learning to play an instrument. Her program is rooted in a yoga-based spiritual movement from India. But then came July 2023. Gangs began sweeping through Port-au-Prince, launching daily attacks. Block by block, they advanced until the gunfire reached Didi and the children's door.
It was becoming so difficult and so impossible that the children will not go to any activity outside. We had to keep them at home.
She knew she couldn't wait any longer. They became part of the more than 1 million Haitians displaced, running from the terror of the paramilitary forces overrunning Haiti's capital. She packed up her children and left the city behind, carrying with her a belief.
Actually, it's not the paramilitary forces, right? It's the gangs. The gangs. We know that there's a guy that used to be a cop, calls himself Barbecue. And now he's a gang leader. So, there you have it. Haiti Barbecue gang leader. So, here he is. He used to be a cop. No. And now he's on the side of the gangs. Right? Take a look at this here.
He's not responsible for all the violence sweeping across Haiti's capital, but be under no doubt he's at the centre of it. His fighters are never far away. Is this now all your territory? Because it was an open road when I was last here.
Yeah.
Jimmy Chirizier, universally referred to here as Barbecue, is the head of one of the most powerful gangs in Port-au-Prince. But he's also the head of a gang consortium, Haiti to its knees. He took us through the roadblocks of buses they've put in place to stop police raids on his territory. That territory now extends over one of the city's main roads, an economic highway he controls in its entirety.
So this was 1 year ago. There's now forces from outside of Haiti fighting off these gangs, right? And it's still going on. Yep, still going on. So we have that, right? And there's much more to tell. But yeah, we'll tell another time. I thank you all for watching. And good night, good day, good morning, wherever you're from.